Finding the equilibrium of Swedish meatballs and Alaskan vodka has proven harder than expected. In this episode of the show, we delve into the release of the new Surface Book 2 and what that might mean for the mixed reality and the Surface division's future. We talk about being human in a tech world and how our brain has a cognitive bias that both helps and hinders us. And then finally, we discuss the future of drones and how they can help. All in this action-packed drama that is the Dane and the Pain.
Welcome to this same hemisphere show of the Dane and the Pain. Because it is the show that sometimes record from the same hemisphere, but we do have trouble with Dutch immigration when we're doing so. So we're going out on a limb for you, listeners.
We're almost the same latitude this week, I think, right?
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's so I am in Kongsberg, which is in Norway, about an hour out of Oslo, and I'm at the 59th degree north latitude. And you are at the 55th degree north latitude. So I'm just a little bit further up for once.
You're in the cold world, and I'm in the warm world of southern southeast Alaska.
Yeah, it's the image I get when you say Alaska. I'm thinking warm, palm trees, beaches,
Yeah, it's all that.
Exactly.
So what do you do in Norway?
God, I don't know.
Besides being pale.
Yeah, I fit in for once, kind of. I went yesterday because I wanted a real coffee, as in I'm a coffee snob, and I found this cafe, and I said to the lady, so I spoke Danish to her, because normally that's fine in Norway, and I said, I'd like a latte, blah, 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 and she replied in English. I went, oh, screw you. So I thought I fitted in, I guess not. So yeah, I'm in Kongsberg. I like saying that word. Kongsberg in just west of Oslo, about an hour on the train, and there's an NDC new initiative here. It's called Tech Town. So that's kind of the unofficial, I guess, word for the town is they call it Tech Town because there's a lot of engineering companies here. It's not a very big town, 25,000 people or so, but there's a really, really, really big engineering / consulting / everything company called Kongsberg. Obviously, it's from here, and they do defense stuff, and they do they build rockets, and I think they build hospital stuff as well, and they just do all sorts of stuff. So there's a large, there's a large population of engineers here, but they don't have any kind of conferences or anything. So the good people at NDC has put on this Tech Town conference, which is more about the engineering side, more so than the software side. So it's development for hardware or development for products, which is kind of interesting. So I'm here with the HoloLens Roadshow, and I'm doing a workshop and a couple of talks and stuff, and it's so far it's really interesting, really good.
So I should imagine that they have a fair amount of IoT sort of discussion or embedded.
Yep, it's embedded. Chip. Yep, it's I was doing a workshop for the last 2 days on HoloLens development, and when we walked to the room we were in, we had to walk past this other sort of lecture in an open space, and he was doing C++ optimization performance thing for a particular chipboard or something. It was crazy low level. You hear things like, and then you have an enumeration for your function with the appropriate baud rate for the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, man. So that was way out of my league, but very interesting.
Down in the weeds.
Yep. It was really low level. So
that's where I start using the word stuff a lot.
I would too. It's But yeah, it was good fun. We built an app for the HoloLens, and we put it on the HoloLens, and we found some bugs in it, and we tried fixing the bugs. And I finally got to try this other new headset that I've had for a while, as in try it for real, the mixed reality headset.
Uh-huh.
And so we have, I might have talked about this before, but there's the HoloLens, which is terribly expensive, but it's a self-contained unit. You can look through the visor on it is see-through, and you see holograms in your real world. Then you have the new range of mixed reality headsets, which are now being pushed pretty heavily because of the new update that came for Windows 10 yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you're probably aware of that, I would imagine.
Yep.
The Fall Creators Update, which is Windows 10 version 1709. And this is, a large part of this is mixed reality. So there's a mixed reality portal. It has this cliff house, which is kind of like your home base in this. I still think it's more virtual reality, but I'm still to be convinced.
Well, actually, that's a subject of some debate online among various folks. What Microsoft in particular calls mixed reality is it's almost like they're just trying to bend the nomenclature around what they're trying to do versus sticking to what it actually is, which you just said is virtual reality.
Well, I know that it's mixed reality because I've been part of that crowd for a long time. And I understand that the headset itself does track your room and it has environmental cameras on the front and all that. But it's just that the experience that you get as a consumer, I was looking at it from a consumer's point of view, is that you can, for once, you can choose to just sit down and use it, so you don't even have to walk around. Or you can choose to map out a play area, which is actually quite a nice experience. And but the apps that are in it, like there's a 6-minute 360-degree Batman Lego movie, which is really cool, but it doesn't use anything mixed reality. Or you can use you can watch a movie in this house on the wall, which again is virtual reality. Or you walk outside and it's just, there's nothing of it that's mixed reality in that sense, right? You need to have the apps that uses the spatial mapping in the room. And there just aren't that many yet. So it's a hard sell, I think. It's very cool. I really enjoyed it. But as selling it as mixed reality, I think is still a little bit of a stretch. I don't think consumers will understand it. That's just my gut feel.
I think that you're probably right. Well, what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, something interesting happened yesterday that I didn't expect, to be honest. There was a new Surface Book announced, Surface Book 2, because that's the way that the naming goes. We have to have a Surface Book 2. I don't think we need numbers, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird too. Just call it Surface Book, and it's this version, the newest version of it.
Exactly, it's like they do with MacBook, right? It's the new MacBook.
Yeah.
And if you really want to go down to it, you can have a model number or something. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, I'm a game with just Surface personally, but that's just me.
Yeah, but it's not a Surface. It is a Surface Book. It is the high-end premium laptop that Microsoft makes.
The book of Surface Books.
Yeah, they're really nice.
They are.
So what came out is that for me this was interesting. I guess for two reasons probably. One is that this now is a Surface Book that allegedly can run mixed reality. The old Surface Book was specifically not running mixed reality for whatever reason, I'm not sure. And so this new mixed reality portal requires a pretty damn high-end graphics card to run, like a 965 or 1070, whatever they call those graphics cards. I don't know much about them, if I'm honest, but a pretty high-end graphics card. And you can now configure these Surface Books too with these large graphics cards. It says up to 1060 NVIDIA GeForce GTX graphics, which sounds very impressive. Which should be enough to run the mixed reality because the headset is tethered, so everything runs through the computer, right? So that's one part of it. I think is interesting that they probably released this with the Falls Created update to allow mixed reality to be pushed on a premium device. I mean, that's just my theory on it. It looks beautifully. It has up to 17 hours battery life, which is the thing that I think is important. I have two yogas, a 900 and 910, and there's like 5 hours difference in battery life, and I tend to use the newer one a lot more just because of the battery life. Go on.
I'm curious if that's I'm presuming they tested it using Edge and not Chrome. I'm always suspicious of battery life claims because with a few exceptions, they rarely, sort of um, meet those during real world use, at least with, I think, or what I would see as, sort of more aggressive users.
Yep. No, I agree.
Developers and people that have, a lot of CPU usage.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at my task manager right now, and I use Slack a lot, and I'm kind of regretting it because I'm not doing anything with Slack right now. It's just I've just started the computer, it just started up to record this episode with you, and Slack is using 1 gigabyte of memory.
Ouch.
Yeah,
really?
Or just over. Yeah, and I've got 5 teams on there, so I haven't got a ton of teams. But I need all of them. Like I use them. Some are for clients, some are for Pluralsight, and I do use all of them all the time. But yeah, 1 gigabyte of memory, and then I got Google Chrome running with. There's a few more tabs now because I was researching a few things, but it's 1.6 gigabytes of memory. So.
Yeah, that's why I generally don't. I mean, I haven't installed Chrome on this device. I have the Surface Book, and so I was really interested in when this was going to come out, and I think one of the things that sort of appeals to me, or I thought was interesting, is they included support for the dial, the dial
Yes.
that you can get with the Surface Studio. And I thought that was interesting, and that's also sort of goes to what you were talking about and trying to make releases at the same time as the fall creators update. And I honestly, I wasn't surprised that it was released. I also, the only thing that surprised me is that they kept the same style of hinge. I'm not really sure why I thought that they would. And probably just because technically it's hard to do that, but I thought that they would try to get away from that. And the thing that really appeals to me is the size.
You mean the 13-inch?
Going up to 15-inch from 13.
Mm-hmm.
So. Because the one I have right now, I believe it is 13.
Oh, okay, yeah.
As you get older, it's it's just easier on your eyes.
Yeah, but are you allowed to use that without your carer's help?
Yeah, I was pretty. I wasn't surprised about it. It kind of. There's also a lot of talk online about, or some rumors about the Surface line being shut down or closed in 2019, and some people pointed to the release of this device as proof that wasn't going to happen. And I would just like to politely suggest to them that if that's 2 years away, and as they wound down the Windows Phone, they did that over about a 2-year period. Mm-hmm. So it's conceivable that if there are enough quality devices from other manufacturers, and this is a marginal business, that they would slowly back out. But they have a lot of sunk costs, and I'm sure they're going to be looking to try to, recoup those. I'm one of those people that I think this device is aimed at, but I got to say the biggest concern I have is at the price. They made it a high-end device, but for the 15-inch for the one you're talking about, you're talking $2,200 to $2,400 US.
Oh no, $3,299 for the top end.
Oh yeah, I was looking at the ones that I was interested in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's some interesting things that are sort of built into it. I think one of the things I saw that I kind of thought was cool this is not Surface Book, but it's in the creator's update, is the ability to adjust the colors on the screen. And in particular, what caught my eye on that is a lot of folks that work like in Visual Studio and with coding, you'll get these interesting, and I'm not a coder, but I've been in there, you get these interesting color usages. And for some people, seeing like a light red or something can be really difficult. So if you can go in and adjust the colors to work better for you at that real fine level, I think that's a big deal for folks who are working on the device all day. I do think that they're going to have a hard time moving a large volume of these at that price point.
I don't think it's a higher volume device, though.
Well, I guess it probably depends on what you think high volume is too. I mean, that's pretty subjective on my part, but those are the things that concern me about it.
Yeah, I think the second point I had was the same as you in terms of, hey, this means that this is not the end of service. We just don't know. We just don't know yet. I don't think we can speculate on it based on a release of a hardware product that's been in the works for a year or two. I do find it interesting though that they're directly competing with the MacBook Pro, as in on the marketing blurb it says more powerful than MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
And that, I think, I mean, I don't use a Mac, so I'm probably not the expert to comment on it, but the people I have spoken to that buy new Macs or MacBook Pros have not been completely, over the moon with them. They're still very good devices, but there's just people just finding that what made MacBook Pro special, especially within the creative industry or the creative people, doing design and music and all that.
Yeah.
They feel like they've been left behind by Apple in terms of consumerism, in favor of consumerisms. And I'm guessing that Microsoft is probably aiming at that market a little bit, trying to get them back to Windows, because there are a fair few people that go back from MacBook Pro to a Windows machine, and this would be probably the Windows machine that they would choose. Similar price point, similar look, similar spec.
Yeah, I think sometimes also people just want to try something different or are bored with it. But I mean, technically, it's beautiful, and to be frank, if I could afford it, I'd definitely buy one of them. And likely, I'll keep my eye out and see if the price gets pushed down, or if I have some discount through the store, I might get one. The Surface Book I have is chugging along just fine. Having said that, I'll probably drop it and step on it tonight, but I'm a big believer in using something until it dies, and there's no real reason that I have to replace this for my use case anyway. So
can I just ask, do you ever take the screen off?
Yeah, I used to more than I do now. When I travel, I do.
Okay, I just wondering if it was one of those gimmicky things.
So yeah, so I traveled last month. I'm going to go on another trip later this month, and it's nice if you want to turn around and watch a movie on it, or if you're laying in bed and you want to browse or whatever. That's where it becomes more useful. But when you're working, obviously I've always got it connected.
Yep. Okay. Because I was just wondering, I got a tablet, a Lenovo tablet, and I rarely take the keyboard off that, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I think tablets. Well, that's a whole other discussion. But no, I was excited about that, and I think for those that can afford it and those that need to upgrade, I think it's a pretty good option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Really nice device.
But for that, it's like a Surface Studio without, as far as the screen quality goes, the image quality.
I think, okay. Well, enough about the Surface Book 2. I think we can. We'll probably see more to. Hopefully, they fix some of the early childhood diseases that the first one had. But I think fine.
That was actually it's a very good point someone else made. Is that with some of these hardware releases, it's better to wait 3 to 6 months until they get the driver issues and things like that sorted. And I thought that was a fair criticism. So for what it's worth, anyways, what's next?
You found this thing that it's still kind of baffling me, but I found it interesting about the cognitive bias that people have. And
yeah.
It's just like the headline of this thing is that it says every single cognitive bias in one infographic, and I'm not a big fan of infographic anymore. Like it's a way of trying to sensationalize
Fancy
some sort of
yeah.
But this was just pretty damn funny or interesting as well as funny, and when we talked briefly about it before, it kind of sparked a much larger discussion on your behalf.
Well, yeah, so I get lost in this stuff sometimes because, picking apart why we think the way we do and looking at companies and how work teams are organized and the way people work and think. And it got me thinking more about sort of our interpersonal relationships, how you and I talk to each other, how technology works. And, there's a lot of built in bias in the way we view technology working for us, not. But what it really got me more thinking about was the personal sort of humanness of technology or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
And most of what we use, people will like to describe as, oh, it makes my life better, it makes it easier. And I've really not seen any objective data that says it's the case. It's a couple things that make me wonder. We talk about we're in the information age, and yet the prevalence of ignorance is not changed despite the purported growth in information. That is to say, we have this imbalance, right? We have lots more information, but I don't believe, at least nothing I've read that shows that we have a proportional decrease in ignorance. That is an inability to relate those two together. And to me, that is the opportunity in mobile, or what people think of as mobile, is how you reconcile those two things. Most hardware and mobile devices we have do not allow us to be more human. They do not allow us to enjoy the things that make us human. And
okay, please explain.
that is to say, what makes you, Lars? Well, I think you have a dry sense of humor. You love to tinker with things. You like to fix things. You like to take things apart. Your phone and your laptop are not necessary for those things to happen. And my guess is that your phone probably infringes on a lot of those things at times. And I think, so to me, that's sort of the next opportunity in technology is trying to reconcile those things. And that's also the area with the greatest risk, because as this chasm grows between the two, we just have the opportunity for really horrible things to happen. That is to say, if we don't address the human element of it, the AI, the technology, and other people have spoken about this. It's not my idea. Could rear its ugly head, and sort of we could become slaves to the machine, which I think in some parts of the world, in some societies, and I would say in the States, that's very much the case.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have Facebook friends, tell me when was the last time you went to, a Facebook friend's house and made them dinner or brought them dinner over, or, are they going to be there to console you if you have a death in the family? The Twitter followers. I mean, I'm friends with you, but it's not likely that we're going to bump into each other at the grocery store.
I hope not.
So we lose those connections. So the cognitive bias kind of got me thinking about that, because there really are. It really sort of in a neat way shows how complex we are. Our relationships are to everything in the world, and how we interpret information. And so I think think that's where the opportunity in mobile, if you will, is reconciling those two. Give me a mobile device that lets me be human, but also allows me to have the information that I need to have to not be ignorant.
Yeah, I find the ignorance part of it really interesting, and it's something that it comes up again and again in conversation with various people, and it seems that we now have more information available in an instant than we've ever had. And this cognitive bias infographic is actually kind of touching that as well. How we cognitively deal with, for example, too much information. Like we notice things already primed in memory or repeated often. As in, there's a bias that if we already know something, we're more likely to go that direction. And I think that something like you're saying, a mobile device will only exacerbate that. Will only make it worse, because you'll look up things, you'll talk to the same people, you'll look at the same apps, you'll do the same thing on the phone, and we'll just repeat what we're doing over and over again. Where I think if we had some sort of device that would, I don't know, challenge us more, maybe,
well,
not
sure,
be as helpful.
And this conversation is a great example of that. So I know, and I know that probably 3 or 4 different things that I've read over the past few years, or things that I've thought about and have congealed, I'm spouting those back out now. So none of this is entirely new to my thought process, and much of it is already reinforcing what I already kind of believe. Mm-hmm. Right? So I have all these biases that are at work that lead me to this sort of kind of idea. We just can't escape that. But I really truly think the more I look around in my own family and just in community and my own use of different technologies, I think that's the opportunity. And I don't know what that looks like. Maybe it's a simpler phone. Maybe it's a device that doesn't have. It's not a phone. I don't know what it is. But anyways, I think hopefully we can put the link to this cognitive bias codex, because it's I just think it's interesting. And you're right though, Lars. It's hard to look at. I mean, it's because you really have to zoom in closely at it and take it apart one piece at a time, because too much information.
Don't look at it on a mobile device.
Yes, do not do that, because it'll just look like an eye.
Yeah, it's huge. But I'll just explain it briefly. It's divided into 4 different areas. What should we remember? Too much information, not enough meaning, and we need to act fast. Those are the 4 areas. And then it has sort of subcategories of, for example, to get things done, we tend to complete things we invested time and energy in, which is true. I like to tick things off my list as well. And then under that, we then have what are the effects or the biases that fall under that. So in this case, to get things done, we tend to complete things we've invested time and energy in. We have the backfire effect, whatever that might be, endowment effect, processing difficulty effect, and so on and so on. So it is like, it's not going to give you the full answer, but it's going to give you a good example of how our brain will kind of cheat us almost. Like,
yeah,
if we have too much information, like, we're drawn to details that confirm our own existing beliefs, which is very true. So it's very interesting. It's a great conversation starter.
And it's also really, I mean, if you're working in a group or team, it's really good to step back, take a deep breath, and really try, leave your phone outside the room. Even though, every time you hear a noise, it sounds like an alert, your hackles are gonna go up. But I think it's a really good exercise for getting people outside of themselves. Aside from that, just listening are probably the 2 things people could do to help them out in their next meeting. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. Yeah. I think we should share.
Very interesting. And then the last thing we wanted to talk to about today is that I borrowed a drone recently from a friend because I wanted to take some aerial photos of the bed and breakfast that we run, or the farm in general, and just have a play with it and try it out. And unfortunately, it turned out that the charger for the battery had decided to die in the cupboard. So I've ordered a new charger, but that's a different story. But in terms of drones, I I see more and more people that are using drones for various, I guess, hobby purposes. I'm a member of the Jeep Club in Melbourne, and there's a couple of guys there that when they go on trips, they have a drone that they can record, they can film, as they drive along in the bush, and it looks amazing. It's really cool. And then I found there's a new company, I guess, that are using drones to deliver, to help with natural disasters. Go in not only to see what's happened, but also deliver items. Your medicine comes to mind initially, but anything that you might want to deliver, because they're very accurate, they're very fast, and they're very easy and cheap to use. And it kind of spawned a bit of a thought process of, hey, maybe we're not using drones enough. Maybe there's other things that we really need to use to think about how we can solve by, we were talking about automation before. How can we automate some of these things that we spend so much time on, and we know there's only going to be more disasters and emergencies that we need to deal with? Why don't we build up some sort of arsenal almost of these helpers?
Yeah, I think they call it the hero, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's kind of a nice little acronym for a drone that's designed to help out in remote emergencies, medical emergencies.
Health integrated rescue
evidently
operation.
It's supposed to be out in 2018, which is, not that far away.
No.
I thought the part that kind of was interesting to me is that included in this package that they're talking about is the ability for a physician using HoloLens to remotely interface with the patients.
Mm-hmm.
And then also they would have information that would be entered into, some sort of computer, or maybe the drone itself or something the drone has on it, that would allow the physician to provide triage and appropriate medical care remotely.
Mm-hmm.
That is to say, somebody's got an open wound or an infection or something like that, if the physician would physically be able to see it and interact with the individual who was hurt without actually having to go there. And then obviously there's some limits to what they can do remotely, but certainly they can, as they point out in here, they've got them designed to carry medication, so there is some treatment that can be done remotely. And the exciting part to me is that it's not that far off.
No, not at all. But the drone is there are drones now that are very well tested and are very capable. Like the drone that I borrowed is an older model, and it's made of styrofoam. The majority of it just to keep it light, and we kind of passed that point, right? We passed. They're not super sturdy. They're still made of plastic and they still break, but the technology has moved on a long way in the last 5 years, and I think that they've probably taken an existing kind of design and expanded on it rather than having to do everything from scratch, which is the way that you do technology, or you take whatever already exists and make it better. And I find it interesting with they have an augmented reality interface on the HoloLens. That is quite cool. And they also have like the ability to have various compartments in it that opens up depending on who needs what medication. Obviously, that doesn't stop anyone from just grabbing it and smashing it, but it's a next step. I think it's rapid response in tornadoes or hurricanes or floods or whatever it might be.
The other part about this is what is interesting as well, is that I'm someone who's worked in healthcare my entire adult life. This is the American Osteopathic Association that is sort of heading up a consortium of different entities, but this is not a private company. So this is the AOA, if you will, and I think the Department of Defense and a few others that are partnering up with them, who also have Homeland Security, National Guard, and NATO. So the origin of it is surprising to me, because I wouldn't have thought that a professional organization like that would be doing that. I would have thought maybe they would have partnered with a private company, and maybe behind all this there is, but I have not seen anything that says that.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the only thing it says is that the actual development team is from community college in Mississippi, which is also very surprising.
Yeah, they have a site called Doctors That Do.
Yep.
which is pretty good. I don't know. I guess there's 180,000 of them in the U.S., so I think this is probably their effort to encourage physicians to go out and help. And just on a side note, virtually every physician I've ever worked with, most people don't know this, do volunteer work, go other places. A pediatrician I knew here for years would go down to El Salvador, South America. Another physician I knew went up in all the rural villages up along the coast in Alaska from here, where they didn't have pediatricians. They did that for years in the winter,
Yep.
So sometimes people will beat up doctors for making too much money or what have you. But my experience is that they're all very much interested in giving back, and actually they probably enjoy that kind of work more than anything else, because when they do that, they don't have to worry about all the BS. They can just go take care of patients. But anyways, I digress. That's way off subject. Very cool.
It is very cool. It's
I'm kind of mad I didn't catch that.
Yeah, for once. What's up? What's next for you, Joel? Like, what? It's turning winter now. Are you going to chase some bears, or?
It is wolf season, but I'm not in the hunting mood. I've got family members that go hunting. But I don't know. I hunted when I was a kid, and it's just not my cup of tea. I mean, I'll certainly go stomp around in the woods, but I'm just not interested in shooting anything. And to be frank, a cow tastes much better than a deer.
You don't go shooting cows, though, do you?
There are no cows around here. It's all corn-fed. And yeah, actually, well, now you can get what do they call it? Free range beef or whatever out of Montana here, if you want to.
Okay.
You can order it, but that's pretty pricey. And actually, I have a brother that raises cows, so every once in a while I'll get some meat from him. Anyways,
in the mail.
What do you got as far as jokes go this week? Hopefully, we've got a lot of comments about your last joke.
Yeah, well, it's we actually had someone on Twitter comment and say, "Hey, can we just move the joke to the front so I don't have to listen to you guys ramble?" I thought that was pretty good.
I'll say that all the time.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I knew you were so intrigued by the last week's joke that you're just waiting, you're just hanging out for it this week. So yeah, it is time for the joke of the week.
It's the joke of the week, so come along with me. I cannot promise it will be funny, but it's the joke of the week.
So what's the difference between a psychologist and a magician?
A psychologist and a magician. I
do
not know.
You know, a magician pulls rabbits out of hats, whereas a psychologist pulls habits out of rats.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
Oh, that was good. I was looking up psychology jokes because we were talking about the cognitives and all that, and I'm going to do another one because I thought there's a little bit more, I don't know, psychologist-ish, but I thought it was funny. Two psychotherapists pass each other in the hallway, and the first says to the second, "Oh, hello." The second smiles back nervously and half kind of nods his head, and then when he's comfortably out of earshot, he mumbles, "God, I wonder what that was all about." Which is totally how I see psychotherapists. It's just, meaning and everything. Yeah,
don't get me started.
No. Anyway, that was all I had.
Well, we're close to the same latitude. You know the rules are that you cannot be in the same hemisphere for more than 7 days with me. Otherwise, really bad things in the time-space continuum happen.
Yeah, exactly. The thing with the moon last time and the elk, that was just weird.
Yeah, it was really odd. So if you're listening, go check out the show notes. Go check us out on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, whatever you do, make sure you read something new, read something different, and tell us about it.
Yeah, I agree. Learn a new thing today.
I will try. After I sleep. All right. Take care, Lars.
All right. See you, mate.
Safe travels.
Bye. Thank you for listening in on another episode of the Dane the Pain. We record across the Pacific, across hemispheres, and across time zones. You can find us on www.daneandthepain.com. Our Twitter handle is Dane_Pain, and we are the Dane and the Pain on YouTube and Facebook. We're also on your favorite podcast app, including iTunes, and please join our fan club by clicking the Register Now button on our website to know about upcoming shows and any free stuff we may have to share. See you next time on The Dane and the Pain.